Welcome to Nursing 532, Healthcare Technology and Information Management. I'm going to discuss a little bit about the course. Hopefully, you have already listened to the welcome to the course video, which really talks about sort of the main contents that we're going to talk about into this course. Also, please do listen to that and consult your syllabi, and every weekly module will show the content that we're going to work on and the learning outcomes for these activities. The purpose of this video is to talk a little bit more of what our course outcomes are and also the assignments. So you have for this course, you have one individual assignment, and then you also have a group project. And the group project has more than one aspect of that project, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Of course, every week, just as you've been doing in your other courses, you will have either discussion boards, sticky boards, some activities to do to help you attain the knowledge of this material. The course outcomes are as such, there are 5 of them. You're going to synthesize liberal education and nursing knowledge of information systems and healthcare information technology, which we call HIT, to provide patient-centered care. You're going to analyze the collaboration of healthcare delivery across the populations with the use of technology and information systems. We're going to implement information and technology strategies to provide care and interpret data retrieved from information systems and genetics and genomics. You're going to develop a sustainable personal and professional identity and values in nursing with evidence-based practice that could be legal, ethical, clinical decision software that we use that really are related to healthcare outcomes. And you're going to engage in the scholarship of nursing to advance quality and safety outcomes. Just a reminder that the live sessions for this course are mandatory. And with a 4-week course, it's really essential for that attendance and success in the course. We will in sessions always bring up some of the added highlights. There might be experiences too. We might have guests come to that might be standardized patients for some experiences. So in other words, though, we're going to highlight certain data from each module. Just as a reminder, I know you know the grading scale. The grading scale appears in your left lower corner. As I said, here's the whole grading. You do get class participation for the live session. You get points for that. The case studies that'll be both in the live sessions and in the weekly modules. And then there's a discussion in 4.1, which is also the responses to everyone else's presentations. And I'll talk about the presentation in a minute. There are a few reflections that you're going to do as an audio or video reflection. So you won't type the responses to this. You will give an audio or a video reflection, and those will be, you will have directions of those that are coming within your module. The main 2 things that I talked about would be that you're going to do one that's a data informatics, genetics, and genomics reflection paper. Again, I'll go into more detail in a little bit with that. That's due during Module 3. You will see in that module the due date for that. That's going to be like a 2-page reflection, and I'll explain that you're going to listen to a podcast, you're going to watch a documentary, and you're going to read a journal article in order to formulate your reflection. I do give you prompts to answer for the reflection. Again, it's about a 2-page reflection, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on that in just a second. Then the group project, and I'll tell you about the group project in just a second. You are going to really look at emerging technology or genomics or any innovation of that type that's happening in healthcare. Okay, and your group's going to work on that. You'll write a paper, you'll do a short presentation, which will be in a video submission format, and then you're going to respond to everybody else's project in more of a discussion board type of response. So again, that's where we're going to go in this video to talk about that a little bit more. Again, in your weekly modules, you will see it broken down to 4. We have 4 weeks here, and this is what your module pages, will pretty much look like. Live session 1, we're going to go over any of the questions that you have after being introduced into the course. Remember, we start January 6th is that week, but we usually meet on Wednesdays. More to come on that, but January 6th would be the first day of that week, okay? We'll go over again, creating some vital information about this. Student learning outcomes, we've sort of already gone over, and so really we're going to go over just pretty much any questions that you have, and then we're going to go over some of the content for that module for that week, right? We will look at the class size in order to decide what your project group size will be. We usually like to keep those groups at 3 or 4 students per group, but your faculty will look at the class enrollment and they will let you know on the first day whether what our size will be for your particular groups. And we ask you not to sign up until that first day, and then we can do that during the class live or, right after. And then the faculty will change your group name to whatever topic that you choose for your group project. We do not want any repeats. So again, if you are told that it's a repeat, then you'll have to pick something else. So again, we'll guide you on that on the first session day. All other live sessions will bring in the highlights of each week's module, as I told you. Some information will be dropped the day before the live sessions for reference during the live, so it will auto drop to you. So let's talk a little bit more about the assignments for clarity. We'll start with the group project. We already talked about signing up, and we'll do that in the first live. We also talked about group size will depend, okay? There are actually 3 stages to this, as I stated. You will write a paper, and then you'll take just a few things out of there to do a presentation. You may make a PowerPoint for that. You're going to do it in a video format. You can do it on Zoom or the platform of your choice. However, I will tell you, you can use a PowerPoint in your presentation, but voiced over PowerPoints will not be accepted, meaning that you have to all appear, such as this on Zoom, so live and record together for your project, okay? Again, as I said, and there's rubrics in the assignment, just so you have referral to, what you're really getting graded on, but I want you to have some fun and creativity with this. I want you to pick topics of emerging technology and discuss these emergencies. Like what does it do for patients? What does it do for the healthcare organizations? I put a list of items, and you'll see it down there. That is a very limited list. There's so much more, right? We see robotics, and we'll talk a little bit about Moxie the robot, right? We're talking a lot about AI now, artificial intelligence. Where do you see that? We have a lot of things in our EHR. We have, clinical decision making type of responses, right? We have alerts for sepsis. We have all kinds of different things. We're looking at virtual nursing now, right? Virtual sitters, virtual nursing. And don't worry if you don't know any of these topics, you're going to learn a lot in this course. And even in our first week, you'll learn quite a bit to give you a little bit of a reference of something maybe to pick. I love creativity. We love creativity. So pick things that, might not even appear on there, but it's something that you've seen, something that you've heard about. You're going to do your research and you're going to do things. pick things based on that. There's a lot happening with genetics and genomics, and we'll have some of that in this course. Maybe you want to pick about, some of the pharmacogenetics. You see alerts on certain medications now that if you have certain gene variants, don't take this medication. It's not going to be effective for you. We do a lot on telehealth now, right? So again, these are just some examples of what you're going to do. Of course, you're going to consult the instructions and the prompts within the assignment, but this is just to give you a little information on that. Okay, so you've got a paper. I put down there no maximum of 5 pages in length, and that's not including your title page or reference page. I'm less concerned about the length of your paper. I'm more concerned on the strength of your paper, right? And remember, the paper is going to inform your presentation, and your presentation in that video format enough so that everybody has points to share. That's going to be really important, okay? Your informatics assignment, I actually told you there's 3 different parts to that, meaning you're going to read a journal article, you're going to listen to a podcast, and then you're going to watch a documentary. So I want you to look at the dates of the things on here that you can see already. So the documentary you're going to watch is from 2016, done purposefully. This is pre-COVID, right? And we term everything that way, right? It's pre-COVID. I really want you to be able to watch this and think, what changes have happened since? And it really looks at big data, and we will talk about data and big data, citizens data, all kinds of different data, right? But I really want you to have something from the, sort of the past, right? The journal article. The journal article is from 2020. It's pretty recent, but again, it's really talking about precision in the genomics and the genetics portion. Where are we going? What does precision health mean? You can see in parentheses, I put the time, so the documentary is 56 minutes. The read time for your article is probably 15 minutes or less. And then your podcast is 37 minutes. That is from a chief nursing informatics officer. And the first 18 minutes talks a little bit about transformational leadership, and then it talks about technology. And that is from 2023. So those are the things that you're going to either read, listen to, or watch. And then you'll see in reflecting on the resources down at the bottom right, it says that you're really there's some prompts I want you to really make sure that you're addressing. Please, whenever prompts are in there, it says consider the following prompts. Those are the things that you should at the minimum discuss. But I also hope that you think beyond that, right? I want you to be passionate about what you write about. So being a reflective assignment, the use of I continuously in this assignment is just fine, okay? I want your feelings when you pull everything together. How are you feeling about these things? And again, you'll see those prompts down here, okay? So again, I said probably about a 2-page, and that does not include title page and references. I'm just fine if you only reference these 3 here, okay? If you bring in other items, please do, like maybe you're bringing in the essentials, the AACN essentials, ANA. I did mention those in the beginning of the assignment. You do not have to bring those in if you do not want to, but again, you might want to, right? If you're bringing in any aspects of things that you learn from your group projects into this as well, go ahead and add those references in, because again, based on what your project was, you might have some other insight into some of these topics, right? So again, I just want you to be very creative and very forward thinking in answering these prompts and anything else that you want. And I hope you enjoy this assignment, because these are 3 really good resources to kind of get your mind reeling. So Those are the two main assignments, other than the things that you're going to do in your weekly modules. And again, there'll be case studies. There'll be, as you know, by reading the syllabi, there is no text for this course, but there are provided journal articles and such. You know that I've created some podcasts for you too, so you're going to listen to something. So you do have weekly readings and or podcasts to listen to. But because again, there is no textbook for this course, okay? So I hope that you bring questions to our first live session. You can drop your faculty an email if you need anything for clarity. I know I hope you find this a very exciting course. It is a quick journey in technological advancements as we only have 4 weeks, but we're going to bring a lot to that 4 weeks. Excited to see you all.